Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Today I will be reviewing the Us movie by Jordan Peele. If you haven't already seen this movie, there will be spoilers ahead, so you might want to see yourself out. So before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Lupita Nyong'o. She did an absolutely wonderful job in this movie. Winston Dukes, he was pretty good as well, but Lupita was serving it up. So guys, I'm going to jump right into this. I just have a few takeaways from this, things that really resonated with me. So before we start, it's got a few things for you to think about. What if the innermost parts of yourself, the essence of you, the essence traits that make you you, your soul, were not allowed the opportunity to mature? What if they were totally neglected? What if your basic needs were totally neglected as well? Do you think that you would still be the person that you are today? Do you think that you would still be in the same class that you are today, be as affluent or not affluent as you are today? Secondly, can you manufacture or destroy a soul? Or is it something that we have in us, the human spirit? Lastly, do you think that there is a difference between us and them, or the haves and the have-nots? Are we all the same? And then lastly, do we truly have any power over our position in life, especially here in the United States? Do you think it is all by design? Do we truly have any power, or is it by design that the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor? All things to think about. So let's dig in. So quick summary. In this movie, we find out that the United States has been cloning people in order to control the population. And I believe that these experiments were illegal because they were taking place underground. And we also find out that the authorities that were over this particular experiment have, I believe, gone crazy or vacated the experiments. However, the clones are still underground. I'm assuming totally neglected. Their basic needs are not being met. They're eating rabbit meat. They were never taught how to speak, don't have a formal language. They lack social skills. They lack access to health care, as we find out later on, which is pretty similar, more on the extreme side, but kind of similar to the lower class. Lower class doesn't have equal access to health care. They don't have equal access to foods. A lot of places are food deserts, or even if they do have grocery stores, a lot of the time poor people can't afford the organic foods, the really healthy foods. So we opt out for burgers, fries, and sodas, as we saw in the movie. So basically, Adelaide, who was pretty neglected as a child, I think her father wasn't really into her growing up. I think he might have been an alcoholic as well. But at any rate, she's on Santa Cruz Beach, wanders away because no one was paying attention to her. She was neglected. And she's basically wandering into this fun house, which is appropriately titled Merlin's Forest, Find Yourself. And she actually finds her doppelganger there. Her doppelganger kills her and switches places with her. So at this point, the true Adelaide, or Red, is underground with the rest of the clones and being mistreated and living in poverty for the next 30 years. The doppelganger takes over Red's life, Adelaide's life, and she's living affluently. She's gotten married, she's dancing, she's had kids, and she's living a good life. So the story is basically following how Red will overtake Adelaide, who has basically taken her life, the life that she was supposed to live. we just follow what inspired her to do that and how she overtakes them. And it brings up a lot of questions. So the first thing that I want to discuss is the excerpt in the Bible, Jeremiah 11:11. That is, you know, a recurrent sign that we see all throughout the movie. So if you guys don't already know this Bible verse, I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. So I think this could be taken in a few different ways. Number one, on the surface, we have Adelaide and Red. And Red and Adelaide, they know everything about each other because they're tethered together. So if Red tries to overtake her doppelganger, she already knows her strengths. She already knows her weaknesses. She will be a step ahead of Adelaide, even though, you know, she was explained as a shadow of some sort, something trailing behind. So that's kind of ironic there. Also, since Red was forced to live underground and kidnapped, taken from her family, you know, there's a day of reckoning for the doppelganger Adelaide, you know, for doing this to her. She needs to pay for what she did, but that's on the surface level. Also, on a larger scale, the clones need to seek justice, period, because the United States have basically been keeping the doppelgangers in a state of poverty. They've been mistreating them, making them eat raw rabbit meat, not, you know, teaching them how to speak. And I think this is like the day of reckoning for the United States. Just my thoughts. The United States is not going to be able to escape this one. So we keep seeing this theme throughout the movie. Adelaide sees it on the alarm clock flashing. She sees it when she goes down to the beach. The homeless man is holding the sign. And because she is the doppelganger, she is actually tethered to Red. So I'm thinking that she might already know that Red has been planning this untethering movement. So that's Jeremiah 11:11. The second thing that I wanted to discuss is the whole idea about creating or destroying souls. We find out that the U.S. abandoned these experiments because they weren't able to recreate the soul. So basically the doppelgangers, I guess, weren't of much use to the government. They were just, I don't know, kind of like Neanderthals. They didn't have any skills. They were a replica, but they couldn't serve a purpose to them. The first thing I thought about was how Adelaide, the doppelganger, when she does escape the cloning chamber underground, she learns how to speak as a child. She learns how to dance. She falls in love. She has children, and she genuinely cares about these children. So because her soul was exposed to culture and different people and different things, and she had more opportunity. She was shown love, you know, I guess by her parents. She experienced love by her husband, Gabe. She was able to create a soul. The soul was probably already there, you know, but it was just neglected. It wasn't nurtured enough to really ignite, to really manifest. So that's one thing. And then a soul can also be destroyed. So Adelaide was just a normal young lady, started out with the soul, you know, normal kid. However, the time she spent with people who lacked culture, she didn't have the typical experiences that children have. She lacked love. There was no love. Basically, she was surrounded by evil, and she didn't even have her basic needs met. So over time, you know, over 30 years, I can understand why your soul can totally diminished. So it goes both ways. But she did have something left in her to, you know, rise up and build this tethering movement. So I think either way it goes, even though your soul can be neglected or it can be nurtured, you still have something in you that will come up and fight. It just needs to be inspired at some point. So that's what I thought about souls. The next key takeaway I thought was about classism in the United States. We have Adelaide's family, the True family. They're living, you know, somewhat affluent. They're going on vacations and just living a good life. They have good food, good friends, love, a sense of belonging, as opposed to Red and her family. They lack all of those things, and they hold a certain resentment. They feel like life has cheated them, and we see in some of the fight scenes, the more affluent can be, they can be pretty savage, pretty brutal if they have to. They want to hold on to their privilege, and I think they were fighting just as hard, if not harder, than the doppelgangers here. So it made me think, like, who truly doesn't have the soul here? Is it the doppelgangers or the other family? You know, it's kind of funny what people will do to hold on to their positions in life. You know, they will do something strange for a piece of change. You know, I think we got to look that far into it. It's not like they were just fighting for their lives, but they didn't want somebody to come in and take their spot. So people do crazy things. You know, they lie, cheat, sell drugs, prostitute, all kinds of things to maintain their position in life. And I think that's how, like, the more powerful have been able to stay powerful and keep the lower class people on the bottom. They will go through any lengths to keep their spot. Also, the last fighting scene between Adelaide and Red, you know, I was thinking that Red was going to overtake Adelaide simply because she has been denied a lot of things over the past 30 years. So when you're in a state of lack, when you're in poverty, you have to usually work 10 times harder than, you know, a more privileged person. So Red has been sharpening her skills. She's been planning. She's been doing her due diligence over the past 30 years. And she came to play. She came to take her spot in this world. But it also makes me think about the affluent. Adelaide ultimately is able to overtake her. She's been living a life of affluence the last 30 years. And even though she's not as sharp as Red, she's still able to overtake her. And maybe that's that whole access to power thing, access to getting to places that the lower class people can't. You know, they have the connections, and that whole thing was kind of bittersweet because we really wanted Red, well, I wanted Red to win and take her spot, even though she was crazy and, you know, lost her mind and is murderous and violent. But it doesn't matter. Like, she was the person that truly belonged there. I don't know. That whole thing is kind of bittersweet. I'm kind of torn between who I really want to win, because you do have a soft spot for the doppelganger Adelaide, because she didn't ask to be born into that position. She didn't ask to be born into poverty and mistreated. That's just the way the cards fell. And there was no real difference between either family. Doppelgangers just got the raw end of the stick. You know, they were the lower class, and through no fault of their own, they just were chosen to live a worse life. And that brings me to my last point. Do we truly have control over our own destiny? You know, especially here in the U.S., and I'm sure in other countries as well, but there's a system. There is a system set up to keep the classes, you know, in place. It's no secret that the rich get richer, that the poor get poorer, and it just makes you wonder, like, even when you are really talented and you try your hardest, like sometimes you can't escape those classes. And especially here in the US, I think that there is a conspiracy to keep two classes, you know, almost wipe out the middle class entirely. And I think that's what the United States was trying to do with this experiment. I also thought about like maybe making soldiers, but more so maintaining the status quo. Like, we got to have people underneath. We got to keep our foot soldiers. We got to keep our workers. We can't have the lower class taking our spots. So, you know, at the end of the day, there is really an advantage to keeping things this way. You know, the rich think that anyway, but maybe we don't have control over our own destiny. And Red, it's a wonder that she didn't lose hope when she was underground for 30 years. And I think a lot of people, especially when they are just poverty stricken for so many years, like you start to lose hope. You don't even think that there could be something better out there for you. So it's amazing that she was able to still keep the fight in her to want something better, because there are a lot of people that just, they don't care. Like, they just destined to be hood rats forever. And you know, they cool with that. They're absolutely cool with that. And one last thought, when I think about affluence and privilege, a lot of times people who are privileged, they somehow think that they are automatically better than the lower class. So a lot of people have this idea in their mind, because I have these material things and I've made it here and I'm on this house on this hill, I must be better than them. And they must deserve to be where they are. So I don't know, kind of reminds me of slavery. But those are my final thoughts on this movie. Overall, guys, I enjoyed the movie. There was a lot of things to unpack. You know, it was good imagery. I wish I could have learned a little bit more about the experiments. I would like to have seen how the doppelganger family escaped. You know, just some missing pieces there. But overall, it was good. I think the actors did good. I was, you know, it wasn't like a jump scary type movie, but it was very suspenseful. So I enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts about those questions I asked in the beginning about souls. Do you think we do have control over our own destiny? Let me know what you think down below, and I will see you next time. Peace.